Hi friends, in today's video, I wanted to highlight some modern day poor man's meals, also known on this channel as extreme budget meals. I'm focusing on dishes with just a few ingredients that can be thrown together quickly. For my first recipe today, I'll be making lentil sloppy joes. This is a very popular meal that I have yet to try. It's super cheap and very nutritious. Since I love lentils, I'm looking forward to trying this. Here is the cost breakdown of the recipe. I priced everything based on Walmart prices, and if you buy the 8-pack of hamburger buns, you should have a couple left over. Here are my ingredients. And then I'm just going to be using some basic pantry spices. Some of the spices are optional, but I'll tell you more about that later. I'll be using a little bit of dark brown sugar because that's what I've got on hand, but you can also just use regular sugar if that's all you have. I have these great value white hamburger buns that I keep in my freezer, and I just pull this out as needed, which I'm going to be doing today. They don't look that great, but I do have a trick to make these look better. I cooked the lentils until tender. I added about a half teaspoon of salt to the lentils right before they were finished cooking, but you can add as much as you want depending on the level of sodium that you like. It only took about 18 minutes for these to be tender, then I drained them and set them aside. I saw a lot of recipes that called for an onion, but since I'm not really into dicing onions and it also cuts our cost to use the onion powder, I'll use 1 teaspoon of onion powder in place of the onion and 1 teaspoon garlic powder in place of a few garlic cloves. I'm adding a half teaspoon cumin and a half teaspoon chili powder. Some recipes didn't call for cumin, but I think I'll like it in this dish. And I'm going to go ahead and add another half tablespoon of oil, so a total of 1.5 tablespoons oil. Then I'll add my tomato sauce. I'll add a small amount of Spanish paprika to add some smokiness to the dish. If you don't have this spice, don't worry about it. It'll be fine without it. This has been simmering for about 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste and see what I think I need to add. I haven't added any sugar yet, but I wanted to take a taste before I add it because the onion powder will cause it to be sweeter. Obviously, if you're not adding onion powder, maybe you don't have it, then you might need to add a little bit more sugar. But in my case, I'm going to go ahead and start with what looks to be a little bit less than 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. You can use white sugar, honey, whatever you want to add here for a sweetener. Some of the recipes called for this ingredient. I don't have that, so I'm going to substitute by adding just a touch of soy sauce and balsamic vinegar. That should give us a nice umami flavor with a little bit of acidity. And it really doesn't matter what type of vinegar you use. You could use any, but I'm using balsamic because I think that'll be the closest. And then I'm just going to do another taste test and see where I need to adjust. I think it needs just a touch more vinegar, so I'm going to add a little splash of white vinegar. Lentils are fairly rich on their own, so I think this will be a nice balance. But you may want more sugar, you may want a little bit more salt, or maybe you wouldn't want to add any vinegar. I typically like my foods a little bit more acidic than most people, so I'm not going to add this additional vinegar into the recipe. I just suggest, doing like I'm doing and tasting it. This tastes perfect to me now, so I'm going to go ahead and add in the lentils. And then I'll just mix everything together and we'll be ready to assemble our sloppy joes. My buns are not looking so good after being in the freezer, so I'm going to brush the top with a little bit of oil and pop it in the toaster oven. Hopefully I can get some nice color on here. The sloppy joes will taste great just by themselves, but I thought it would be fun to see all the different kinds of toppings that would work with these. I think unsweetened pickle slices would be great, but I didn't find any in my fridge since the lentils are already sweet. I think sweet relish is not ideal. However, it would add a little bit of crunch. I also had this salad kit. I could make a coleslaw out of this. That is always good on top of something sweet like sloppy joes, but I think I'll pass on that. Usually, I take all of the seeds out of the jalapeno at once, but today I'm just removing the seeds from the few slices that I'll be using. Either cilantro or jalapeno would work great here because so far our cost is $2.49. In my area, I can get jalapenos for less than 30 cents and cilantro for about 35 cents. So for a total of $3, you could make this meal and use either cilantro or jalapeno for a topping. This was delicious. I can see why this meal is so popular. I like this a lot better than I thought I would. I'm going to give this a 9 on my scale. Not only is this one of the cheapest meals ever, but it's tasty, and I love the fact that we've got protein and vitamin-rich lentils as our base. You're only spending $2.50 to feed a family of 4, but you're getting all of these health benefits. And I like the fact that if you store these buns in the freezer, you can have this as an emergency meal with your shelf-stable items. I liked the cilantro. It added a nice freshness to the bite. If you're one of those people that can't eat cilantro, then you could add an Italian parsley here. It would still give you the same freshness factor. I'm going to try the sweet relish and see how that is. Okay, I actually like that as well. Again, it's sweet, so you've got 2 sweet items. However, it's still nice, and I think we are now beyond a score of 9. I would like to try this with some sliced dill pickles. I think that's going to be the ideal combination. And then let me try it with jalapeno. I love using these in budget cooking because they're so cheap and they're not too hot. I don't like peppers that are too hot, and that was really nice as well. And it did add some nice crunch to the bite. So it's good to know how versatile this is. I'm curious to know what you guys would add to this, but I mean, I think the point is to just look around your fridge and see what you have that might work here. The lentils are a little sweet and rich, so having something to balance them out is definitely pleasant to the palate. If you had some kind of vegetable sitting around that you had left over, you could also use a little bit of a vinegar and water mixture and pickle something, and then you could add that here and that would be perfect. Just one of these was not enough for my lunch, so I ended up eating a second one. With the amount of leftovers I had though, I think you could probably get 6 sloppy joes from this recipe to feed a family of 4. So I'm thinking if you had 2 adults and 2 children, it would be perfect. If you live alone, you could separate this by portion size and freeze and then simply reheat for future meals, which is what I intend to do with my leftovers. And as always, I'll leave the recipe with the ingredients list and price in the description area of my video. My next meal is a Rice-a-roni one-pot meal that one of my viewers shared with me. It includes Rice-a-roni Spanish rice, diced tomatoes, 1 can of black beans, and 1 small can of chicken. All of this comes in at $4.13 and feeds 4 people. The package instructions called for 2 tablespoons of butter, but I'm going to use olive oil instead. But any oil would work. You can also choose to make this yourself with whole foods and it'll cut the cost down. However, you'll need to add in the spices. In this case, it's onion powder, garlic powder, MSG, and paprika. And it looks like they do have dehydrated green bell pepper in here. I'm just going to keep stirring this until it browns. This has 2 ingredients, long grain rice and cut fideo, or it could also be packaged as vermicelli. So if you're making it at home, those are the ingredients you'd want to use. If you're trying to bulk this up to feed more people and you're using the Rice-a-roni package, you can always add extra rice to it, or you could add more fideo, then add a little more water. As I'm stirring this, I'm thinking of all the different ways you could use this. This would be a great filling for stuffed peppers. I would add a nice melting cheese on top. You could also make this into a casserole and bake in the oven and top with cheese. I'm adding in canned chicken, but obviously ground beef, ground turkey, or kielbasa, which is a smoked sausage, would work as well. I tried some vegan Italian sausage from Trader Joe's that I think would work well in this dish. If you wanted to go the sausage route, I would make sure to brown it thoroughly before adding it in. It'll add a nice delicious coating and nice texture to the dish. I garnished this with a little dried parsley. This was really tasty, and to have a meal with chicken that feeds 4 people at this price is very good. Speaking of which, I've got a great video coming next week that I'm excited about that focuses on similar meals with poultry that are even less than this one. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and hit the notifications tab so that you're notified when I release a new video. My son took this in his lunch and he really liked it. The box indicated that there were 3 servings per container, but I definitely think with the added can of black beans and chicken that this feeds 4. It's a very filling dish and has lots of protein. I was satisfied with just 1 bowl. For my final recipe, I'm making these 2-ingredient oatmeal banana cookies. I've been wanting to try these for a while now. They're all over the internet with lots of people choosing to eat these because they're much healthier than regular oatmeal cookies. And for our purposes, it makes a great low budget recipe. We can basically make these cookies for well under $1 worth of ingredients. I'll be using 1 cup of regular oatmeal and 2 full bananas. I'm only showing 1.5 here, but I'll be getting another half banana out of my freezer. I can think of several spices in my cabinet that would work in this recipe. I have ground cinnamon, pumpkin pie spice, And I even found this cocoa cinnamon sugar blend that would work. Typically, this isn't made with any added sugar, but if you wanted to, you could add a small amount, especially if your bananas are not very ripe. I'll start by preheating my oven to 375. I didn't have enough fresh bananas, so I'm grabbing a half of a frozen banana out of my freezer, and I'll just heat it up in the microwave. One of my viewers told me that you can ripen your bananas in the microwave, so if your bananas weren't quite as ripe as you wanted, that's an option. It's the bananas that lend a sweetness to this cookie, so you definitely want them at the right level. I'm separating this into several bowls so I can try some different toppings. This is still kind of wet, so I'm going to add a little bit more oatmeal to this. I have lots of ingredients that would work great as add-ons. I think cacao powder would be delicious. I've been using that quite a bit in my smoothies lately, and it's quite good. I also have flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, dried cranberries, and I still have some sliced almonds. I'm definitely health food rich at the moment because we are all trying to eat healthy, so I happen to have a lot of items on hand. I also have these medjool dates that I picked up at Trader Joe's last week. I think what I'd like to do is add some dried cranberries and walnuts to one of them. I think that'll make a nice combination. And for the next one, I'll add some of the cacao powder, one chopped date, and I'm also going to add just a touch of coconut. It's fun to just experiment and see what these different combinations taste like. I'm going to use parchment paper, but if you don't have it, it's fine. Just use some kind of oil so that the cookies don't stick to the pan. Here I'm using this spray coconut oil. I'm actually not that fond of this. I also picked this up at Trader Joe's, but it kind of smells funky, so I'm not quite sure what it smells like, but I'm not a fan. These set up nicely. I'll start with the one with just the bananas and oatmeal. Wow, it's actually a lot sweeter than I thought it was going to be, and it's very chewy. The texture's not like a regular crispy cookie, it's more like a chewy granola bar. Now I'll try the one with cranberry and walnuts. These were not sticking together quite as well, so I wasn't sure how these were going to turn out, but they are delicious. Yum. They taste more like a real cookie. I love these. And now for the one with cacao powder, chopped dates, and a little bit of coconut. Okay, that's good too. I would definitely eat this, but if I was making these again, definitely the cranberry walnut are my favorite. I do have to say though that these 2-ingredient ones are really good. I'm shocked that we could make such a delicious snack item with just those 2 ingredients. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could blend up half of the oatmeal to make it more like a flour. That would change the consistency a little bit of your cookie, but I do love the chewy factor, so I always do keep my oats whole when I make any kind of oat bars or anything like that. You could also add peanut butter to these. That would be really good. However, I think that they would be a little too rich for my taste. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you have any low-cost budget tips for me, please leave them in the comments below or email me so that I can share them with others. If you're struggling to purchase food, you might want to watch my How to Save Money on Groceries video, and I'll link that in the description area. Thanks again for watching, friends, and I'll see you next week.